The CFL Combine took place this past weekend in Toronto with 53 Canadian players measuring in, testing, and performing in the one-on-ones in front of CFL scouts. Hodge, this was your fourth Combine and JC his first. Give us your overall impressions of the event, fellas.
I had an absolute blast. It was the first time in 2 years I've been unsequestered from the Arctic tundra of Manitoba and got the opportunity to see people live and in the flesh. It was the first time I got to meet JC Abbott. We were supposed to meet in person at the 2020 Combine. We saw each other at the airport, and he says, "Yeah, I guess we weren't catfishing each other this whole time anyway." I said, "Buddy, let's be honest. If we were catfishing each other, we both would have picked prettier pictures." But anyways, as for the actual event, I mean, it's not the strongest draft class I've ever seen. I'll be perfectly honest and frank about that. Are there some very good players? Yes, absolutely. But the results were not as strong as we have seen in past years. I was also disappointed in the bubble at Varsity Stadium. The media area had really no vantage point for the one-on-ones, and there was no video screen to allow us to watch them. So we had to go back and watch them all after the fact anyway. But other than that, I enjoyed the event. There are some very talented players. I got to speak to many of them in person, and I'm looking forward to draft day.
For me, it was a dream come true to be able to attend the Combine, to meet you guys both in person for the first time, because I hadn't met Justin Dunk either. But like you said, Hodge, being at the actual Combine was probably the most disappointing portion of the weekend. All the rubbing elbows with scouts and GMs and coaches, that lived up to the hype, but freezing my butt off in a tiny corner in U of T's bubble while not being able to see what I came there to see, would have liked some better forethought from the CFL in terms of designing how that media setup was administered.
It needs an upper deck, guys. When we were in Regina in Winnipeg, and by we, I mean Hodge and I, there was an upper deck and it was a great viewing area. So you don't have that in Toronto. And I would like to see something different in the future, especially if you're going to let fans back in there, because it becomes difficult for them to see as well. So I feel like, reflecting on my days when I was covering it for CFL.ca, you could go anywhere on the field and I was right there watching it and could move around to get a great vantage point. But I feel for the fans now who are relegated to essentially the one end zone or the back part of the dome there at the University of Toronto and not being able to see. Other than that, I really liked how the CFL put this event on. It was at the Weston Harbor Castle, downtown Toronto. That's where the players stayed, and that's where the Combine was based out of. And that setup was an upgrade over where it had been previously. It really looked like Major League, and obviously the CFL is a professional league. So the fact that these players come in here to the Combine, get invited, of course, but come to a setup like that, to me, shows right away that it's professional. So I think overall it was smoothly run. I mean, you guys are going to complain about not being able to see. That's fair. CFL, I'm sure, will take that into account next time. But overall, for it being the first in-person event for all three of us and going to a CFL off-season event that is really the major off-season one, I think the CFL did a great job. Plus, they gave us some free swag, so we should give them some props.